And so here he says, when you have this condition, there's a need for revival. Once we got the locus of modernism, we got the locus of new evangelicalism, we got the locus of a lot of things. But I think one of the most devastating locuses today is the locus of materialism. Materialism and Christianity have never been good bedfellows. I was I'm preaching on the 7 churches in Revelation. Every Sunday morning I do a different church, and I did Sardis last week. And Sardis was an example of a church that was like, as Vance Havner used to say, they were like fat cats drowning in their own cream. We have need of nothing, kind of like the Laodicean folks. But you see, what had happened was that the church had compromised. They had a name, but they were dead. Sardis had been a rich place. The man who was the leader there was a wealthy man. They discovered gold in the creek river that runs through the town of Sardis there in western Turkey, and they coined the money, multiplied millions and millions of dollars. They had an impregnable city, but they got soft. They got at ease in Zion. They got effeminate, like our society is today. And because of it, they did not do what they should have done. And Cyrus came in, and later on, one of the Roman emperors came in. They were able, even though they had an impregnable city, kind of like Babylon was, they were able to find a fault in the cliff that they could come through. And because the people were not willing to fix the fault, it became their devastation. And that's what's happened to us today. We've gotten too soft. And so he says here, the locusts devour the land. And then if I send pestilence, pestilence is the diseases of Egypt. You know, God, when he was blessing them, he'd put a barrier between Egypt and the land of Israel. But when they didn't do what he told them to do, he'd take that barrier away, and he'd let those sicknesses come in. If you go to Deuteronomy chapter 28, read that whole chapter, it'll describe it to you. And he said, I'll let these, where you were like the stars of heaven, like the sand of the sea, he said, you'll be left few in number. And so those diseases would decimate the nation of Israel. And when that happened, they would see that there was need for revival. And so spiritually, as we look around, we have trickles. We need the showers of blessing. Locusts are eating the heart out of our congregations because let's face it, we don't put Christ first. We give God leftovers. We have our schedule all worked out, and if it'll fit in my schedule, I'll be there Wednesday night, preacher. But if somebody comes to my house now, I got to feed them, and I won't be able to be there Sunday night. You know what I tell people to do that? I said, here's the refrigerator, and here's the remote, and I'll be back about an hour and a half. Make yourself to home. I'm not going to stay home because somebody comes. See, they ought to know that on Wednesday night, Sunday morning, Sunday night, you're going to be in church. So they come on Saturday night or sometime during the week. But we don't do that anymore. We put ourselves first, and then we put Christ second. See, and we got the whole thing turned around wrong. We got the cart before the horse.